You're listening to Solder and Soot, a NARSA idea podcast. I'm Bobby Duran.
I'm Nathan Ingrayo. Bobby, first episode of 2026. How are you?
It's going great. It's amazing that there is a season six. When we first started this, I didn't think we would have more than a couple of episodes, and I'm just really amazed and honored that we're still here and I haven't been fired from the podcast, from my non-paid position at the podcast. So that's good. How were your holidays?
The holidays were really good. I have two children, 8 and 6, so the Christmas magic is still very much there. The bane of my existence is the elf. I know your son is a little bit older. I don't know if you have elf issues at your house.
My son, I think, is now gone over the elf. I didn't have that, but we only have one. So, what kind of issues are we talking about that the
Uh,
elf causes?
I mean, our elf is not mischievous, but it's coming up with the different ideas to position it every night, and if the dog gets it, what do we do? Stuff like that. It's just it's cute because the kids are really into it, but it's a labor of love, I guess.
Yeah, I think that was a tremendous marketing idea. I think we need to come up with like a radiator on a shelf,
There
you
you
know, and
go.
be able to sell these, overstock heater cores from like 1992 Corolla, and we could make them as rads on a shelf. I'm
There
gonna
you go.
propose that at our next meeting. I think
Yeah.
we have the budget to do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. As far as NARSA goes, Bobby, we have a big 2026 coming up. We have our first event in Minnesota on April 29th and 30th. That's going to be at L&M Radiator. It's going to be a really cool event. It's going to be mainly focusing on extreme duty and severe duty applications. We're going to be able to do some teardowns of some actual products at L&M. We have a great day of content, the return of the Rad Shop Roundtable, and then an associated sort of discussion panel as well with suppliers. We're calling the Supplier Circle. So lots of neat opportunities for members to interact and meet with each other. Really looking forward to that. It's just, I feel like it's going to be a great event.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, L&M Radiator is the company that produces Masabi radiator, which are grammatized tube radiators. So this is a unique opportunity to get into a factory that I don't think has ever been opened up to an organization like ourselves. And bring your technicians. They're going to have demos on how to work on this. And if you have experience with Masabis, you might learn something from the factory about how they do things a little differently than you. And if you have no idea how to work with Masabi radiators, this is going to be a really good opportunity to get in there, learn from the people that make it, and learn about opportunities in Masabi radiators, sort of severe duty radiators. Check out our website for registration and programming. This one's not to be missed, and I encourage all our members and potential members to join us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we get started with the podcast, let's be sure to thank our sponsors here. We want to thank Johnson Manufacturing. They're a big supporter of the Solder and Soot podcast. They've always supported NARSA and IDEA, our mission. One major way was hosting the spring conference last year. Really another fantastic event there. Thank you again to Johnson for always supporting us.
We also want to thank 4R Fasteners, another sponsor. I use their product. Looking for top quality industrial fasteners that combine durability and precision. 4R Fasteners offers custom engineered solutions, competitive pricing, and fast nationwide shipping on everything from hex cap screws to abrasive. Trust 4R Fasteners. I encourage everybody, you might be using your local supplier. Give 4R Fasteners a shot. You might find that you could save a lot of money. So I encourage all our members to check them out. Rafael Taveras, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you guys. Very glad to be here.
Yes, thank you, Rafa, for being here. I guess first things first, why don't you tell us a little bit about you for those that aren't familiar with you, your company. Tell us about you, what your company does, and what you specialize in.
Sure. My name is Rafael Taveras. I'm from Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. Work at Industria Core. Industria Core, it's a family business. We've been doing this since 1980. So it was started by my father, and now second generation here in the company. And we do copper brass cores. We do service for gensets, or remote generators and stuff like that. We're also in the HVAC market. We do coils and we do some complete units as well for the HVAC market.
Awesome. Rafael, let's talk about your history with NARSA.
Hmm.
I know from personal experience, your family has been involved for quite a long time. And what were some of your earliest memories at NARSA events?
Yeah, so my father is a very strong proponent to be members of associations. So he's always liked that aspect of meeting with like-minded people that are in the same industry. So since he created the company, I think we joined NARSA probably in like 83, 85, something like that. And English is not my dad's first language, so it was kind of he was kind of hard for him to go to the events, but he always used to go because there were other Spanish speaker there. Especially, he would always hang out with your father, Bobby. He would always hang out with the guys from Argentina, the OSAs in Panama. So they had a little group where they could, share ideas. So he actually, even though he didn't speak the language, he found a lot of benefits from going to the events, just sharing ideas with other people in Latin America. Uh, my personal memories from NARSA. I think my first memory from NARSA was probably when we all went to Disney. It was uh, it was in the early '90s, mid '90s probably, and NARSA had an event in one of the Disney parks, and I remember as a kid just sitting in the bus, and we had the entire park for ourselves, and that was a super fun event.
Yeah, I heard a lot about those events, and my father, always was very appreciative of having this kind of Latino crew in
Yeah,
NARSA at that time because NARSA was a very different organization, and there was a lot more like just bigger events, and it was very car centric and focused. And he was able to have this crew, like you said, with your dad, with Luis Osa, with Mr. Filaldi from Argentina, and several others. And he that has been, and we continue to this day to see the benefits of that association between my father, your father, and Luis in Panama, because we still use a lot of the technology and tips that we got from your dad and from Luis. And it's just, and for us to continue that, because you and Alejandro from Panama, Luis's son, we're still pretty tight. And
yeah,
to me, it's a really special thing to see that second generation like be at a NARSA event where 35 years ago our parents were doing that, which is awesome.
definitely. That's something that I really cherish that a lot, and I think I hold it very close to me, and I think it's super super important that we still keep that relationship going on the second generation, and we all get along. So it's very nice.
That's great. So, Rafa, being growing up in the family business, was this always predestined for you? Was this something that you chose to get into? Tell us a little bit about your path, how you ended up where you are now.
Well, it wasn't, and it was. I remember, my dad tried to instill a work culture in all of us since we were kids. So Saturdays, I was here in the shop, here in the factory, just doing anything. When I was in summer breaks, I would have to come to work almost every day when we were in summer breaks. And I really learned the business since I was really young. I was assembling copper brass cores. I was pushing tubes and flat fin cores when I was a kid. They never let me around fire when I was a kid. So I think the first time I started soldering was when I was a teenager. And Then after that, I went to college. I'm an industrial engineer, and I wasn't 100% sure that I was coming back to the business. I got some job offers going out of college, and basically my dad really wanted me to come back and basically made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And and here I am. And when I started from the business, I started being out in the factory floor, repairing machines, getting to know the process, getting to know everything. And then gradually I started to go on sales, and I was in the counter taking the phone calls, taking care of customers walking in. And I think that's the best way that that someone can learn the business. If you come in from the ground up, you can really learn, what your customers want and all that. And then after that, I graduated to the office, and now a couple of years ago, now I'm president of the company.
There you go. Well, congratulations on that. Now, I know this industry is a tough one to break into and a tough one to acclimate to. I know when I first started it was a couple of years before I really became super comfortable talking, intelligently about the engineering aspects of heat exchangers and that sort of thing. So coming up in the business like you did probably provided a great foundation for you, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's something that I'm very grateful. Going to school for engineering and getting to learn some of the concepts, and then having them being applied in the real world. That was very, very interesting, because you learn some stuff in college that it's super theoretical, and you're always asking, when am I going to use this, and then having some things actually happen in real life and here in the factory, it's very nice.
Into that, I always think some of the most interesting people in the industry and some of the most respected people in the industry, they tend to come from really different backgrounds. Some of them may have not grown up in the business. I look at you, you're an engineer. So you have that background besides the fact that you grew up in the business. And then you talk about someone like David, who came from the diesel, David Bienvenu, who came from the diesel, industrial diesel mechanic world, and then came into the radiator business. He brings a different perspective. My background is actually finance, and I'm a radiatorologist in training, if you will. But how have, as an engineer, as well as someone that kind of grew up in the business, how do you see how the value that uh, different backgrounds bring to the business? You have somebody that might just have 50 years experience on the bench. You might have someone that comes from a diesel world. You might have someone that comes from just a completely different world and goes into the business. What have you seen has been the value of different backgrounds getting into this business?
I think the value in that is that you get so many different perspectives for the same problem. We all have different tools that we carry with us when we tackle a problem. And One of the things that I'm grateful for is that when we get together and we'll have a question and one subject, we're all going to approach it from a different side. And just having those different points of view, it's so valuable. It's so valuable because for example, things that I wouldn't think about a finance part of the company, you would have a comment on that, I would have never thought about that. Or David would have a bigger picture of a radiator, because this will affect some other part, because he's so familiar with that diesel industry that he can know that downstream there's another part that could be affected by that. And it's so important to have all those different points of view. At the end of the day, there's no radiator school. Like, no one can learn this anywhere else. It's not like you can take a radiator class anywhere. That doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. uh but having those different points of view on the same subject, it's so important. And I think it's something that it's very, very valuable to have.
What I've found is the most successful engineers in our industry that I've seen will value the experience of a field technician and someone that actually sees the modes of failure. Because what I've learned, like from the guys in DRC, they're like, well, we build for a 3-year timeline that we have to get our warranty. But someone that's in the field will see a failure that happens at year 7 or year 6, and why. And if they value that experience, they could then improve their product beyond what their competitors might. And I just took that to heart, to kind of like really look at different backgrounds and different experience and try to take the best out of it to build a better product.
Yeah, 100%. If you're talking like about a copper brass radiator, and you have the guys that are on the field, you know, taking it apart, maybe in the design phase, you make them, you decide to draw apart a certain way, but then the guys out in the field is like, hey, if this part were this way, it'd be a lot easier for us. It'll save us 30 minutes on assembly. It's something that, like, we would never know if you're not talking to these other guys that have different backgrounds.
Interesting point there. And as you're talking about problem solving, and I'm going to pose this question to both of you since you're both in the region. When it comes to Latin America and especially with the shop space there, what are some of the biggest challenges that we're seeing in those regions?
I think Latin America is always a couple of years behind the trend of what's happening in the United States. And so, for example, with the plastic and aluminum trend that happened years ago, we were a couple of years behind on that. So things in Latin America always, I think they happen like 5 years after they happen in the US, something like that. So you can really see where the market is going. And also in Latin America, one of the challenges is that you have to import everything you need. There's not a local market for this industry. So anything that you need to bring in from the outside. And sometimes you don't have the correct part or you don't have the correct tools for something, and you have to be very, very creative with the way you do certain things. Because at the end of the day, you have a customer that has a machine that's down, a generator that's down, and you need to get that up and running. So one of the characteristics of Latin America is the creativity we apply on certain problems. And I'm sure you've seen that, Bobby, as well, in your market and in other countries as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's in not only Latin America, but any place that's kind of isolated from having an ecosystem of easy replacement parts. Um, wh- I personally love going to shops in countries where they might not have access to that because they have to solve problems in a way that we don't need to. We can just get that replacement part. So they might make something. I've seen people, a lot of things like I was in a shop in Argentina, in southern Argentina, and visited there, and they treated me great. And they recovered all their own solder and they treated it and use it because that was what was required in their market in order to compete. So it to me, I love whether it be in Vietnam, whether it be in Mexico, whether it be in any country. I love going to smaller shops to see how they solve their problems. I imagine something similar would be in like Cuba or New Zealand or places that are very isolated. You would see that. So maybe we need to do a an NIT in New Zealand or someplace really isolated to kind of learn some more about how they do things.
Definitely. I mean, I've seen some very, very creative stuff happening here. I mean, I've seen people. I think one of the most creative stories where I didn't see it myself, but I've heard it from another small shop here. A guy fixed a leak on a car radiator using a plantain.
Wow.
I've heard of the
So
egg.
you've heard of the X. So the way I was told the way I was told the story is there was a leak on one of the outside tubes, and one of the outside tubes was protruding. So it had like a little sharp edge on the outside. And this guy, plantain skin it's thick, it's a thick skin.
Right.
So this guy just like shaved the plantain skin into that leak, tested the radiator. It wasn't leaking, and he was able to install it in the car, and the car that person could drive, one more hour to the closest town to get a proper repair. That's the most creative repair I've heard about in my life. And this guy swore by it. Like he says, yes, this happened.
At the end of the day, there aren't many problems that can't be solved with some plantains. I mean, perhaps the troubles in the Middle East all have to do with they don't eat plantains, and if they did, maybe we could solve all those problems.
Lack of
Let's get a shipment
plantain.
of Maduros there, yeah. All right, so Rafa, most recently we were together in Turkey, and I want to talk to you a little bit about your experience there. Could you kind of give us just a general overview of what your thoughts were on that trip?
Oh yeah, I mean, the Turkish NIT was a great trip. We visited three factories, and in our industry, the way most of the people in our industry are, we're happy just walking around in any factory just to see how they do, the stuff that we do differently, how they do it over there, and apart from that, I think the most important part of that NIT and all NITs is just being able to meet people from all around the world and have conversations with them and learn about their business and learn about them as well. Uh, and I think it's such a great opportunity for networking and for learning all that. And I mean, props to Bobby for creating the NIT. And I don't know, I'm sure you know, Nate, but the first proof of concept for the Bobby's NIT was here in the Dominican Republic. We had a small group of people come in. We hosted them for 2 days. Everyone walked around our place here. And I think after that, Bobby said, "You know what? This might work." And what iteration are we on right now?
Next one's going to be number 8, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Rafael, I really, publicly, I've said it privately, I really appreciate you, volunteering your place and kind of being receptive to this concept that I had because candidly, you know, um, some of the people running the organization were sort of uneasy with the whole idea. Is it going to be too expensive? Will people go to this? And I was really confident that we can do it. So, I spoke to Rafael and kind of tried to get across what my vision was, and we were able to do it very cheaply because the first one
Yep.
we didn't even care if we made money. It wasn't even an issue. We just wanted to see if there were 25, 30 people that wanted to go to another country, visit a factory, have a couple of some educational sessions, and then the networking and having some dinners and breakfast together, and it worked really well, and the response was really positive, and that just was the springboard to go into the next one. So I I really appreciate that you guys, had the confidence in NARSA to allow us to come visit your place. That meant a lot.
Yeah. Once you host an NIT, it's the day of you're walking down the factory or in the shop and you're like, oh my God, this place has never looked this clean ever. So it's one of the advantages of hosting an NIT. You get to clean up.
My one of my favorite parts of your NIT was when you were giving a presentation and your dad stopped you in the middle of the presentation because you had something on like
Yeah.
your chin.
Just completely just walked around, walked to the front and stopped the entire presentation. Yeah. Good thing it wasn't being recorded.
Yeah, there was no recordings of that one. That was awesome. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, but again, we appreciate it, and and I mean, speaking of the NIT, I mean, you went to tour in Turkey, and going from that first NIT to this NIT, I mean, what was your feedback and your feeling on NIT Turkey?
Oh, the event has grown so much. It has developed. I think Turkey, we went to 3 factories. Panoto was very nice, very welcoming. Um, Caleoto was impressive. It was impressive to walk that floor. And Yetsan was just amazing. We had the best time with the people at Yetsan. They were so welcoming. It was a great experience. It was, for traveling to that town where Yetsan was, where it's away from Istanbul where we were. It was 100% worth it. It was 100% worth it, and I'm very glad to participate on that NIT. I met, I got to meet so many new people, and still in touch with them, and it's so important to go to those places. I'm very looking forward for the next meeting.
Yes, me too, for sure. Did you have any takeaways from any of the plants in Turkey that maybe you've implemented in your shop?
Well, some things that we saw at Yetsan was their robotic welding.
Mm.
People listen to robotic welding and they think it's this super complicated thing. It probably was 15 years ago. It's so accessible nowadays that we saw that and we were mind blown by how accessible that is. And they were explaining how you get going, and it's just so easy to do. Obviously, it takes expenses. You have to invest in machines and training, but once you do, it's just super worth it. So I'm very grateful to have seen that at Yatsan.
Great. Now switching gears a little bit. You've been on the board for quite a while, haven't you?
Yeah, I think my first board meeting was in Dallas. Bobby, I don't know if you remember what year that was. It was Dallas by we
I
were
don't
by
remember
Love
what
Field,
year, but you were one of my recruits, to put it on record.
one of the recruits, correct?
Brian Braswell did not recruit you, just putting it out there.
Officially recruited by Bobby Duran.
Bobby has the receipts.
Yeah.
So can you tell our listeners a little bit about what it's like working behind the scenes on the board and what members might not realize about the board and what you do?
Yeah, so working on the NARSA board, it's a time commitment, but it's something that it's very enjoyable. You get to build very good relationships with everyone, and even if you're in the board or not, just going to the events, you get to meet so many new people, and it's one of the most important parts of the business, just networking with other people that are doing the same thing that you are. But the I think the board has definitely changed since when I joined the first time to where we are right now. I think the association has changed also, and I think we're on an excellent path forward. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done, and I think that we are working on the right track. At the end of the day, the board has always the members in mind. Everything we do is it's to get more value, to give more value to the members, and I think I enjoy my time on the board, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from everyone else in the board.
Rafael, you're second VP, which means that eventually you'll be in line to take the presidency of NARSA. Um, I'm kind of proud of that because, before, you're going to be, I guess, the second Latino president of NARSA. We're trying to expand our footprint to be a worldwide organization, which is how we started the NIT. And what are you hoping to see kind of in the direction of NARSA, as you go into leadership?
I think international expansion, which is something that you've been talking about for many years. It's something that we would love for it to happen sooner than later. We would love for more shops, more manufacturers from Mexico. I know there's a bunch of manufacturers in Mexico that are potential members. Uh, Same in Central America. There's some countries that are not yet represented as NARSA members, and in South America, there's the potential of countries like Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Peru. There's a lot of potential members, and there's a lot of knowledge that they that has to be shared. Especially in Chile. Chile has an amazing mining industry, and I mean, imagine those shops that take care of those huge equipments in Chile. The knowledge that they have accumulated throughout the years would be something amazing to share with the entire organization. So hopefully, we get a little bit of expansion into those markets, and I think that will add tremendous value to the rest of the members. I mean, I'll gladly work as translator. Same with you. have, have them do a presentation, and we'll gladly translate if they need to.
Well, and that's a really good point, Rafa, because growing the association and growing the industry is obviously top of mind for us, and whether it's expanding our member base domestically, Canada, um, internationally, it doesn't matter where these potential members might be. We want to spread the word. We want to grow the association, and that's a big part of what the board does, right? You're all volunteers, and you help steer the organization. And I can tell you that I'm appreciative of all the help that the volunteer board does for NARSA. So it's great to see that. It's great to see the cooperation. And yes, we're actively trying to expand our member base to all stretches of the planet.
Yeah, and one of the things with NARSA is that you have to go to the meetings. My first meeting as a full-time employee of the company was in Michigan, was in Ann Arbor, and I went there by myself. I didn't know anyone that was going there. I just saw the flyer and I just showed up. That was an excellent event. I remember we had a presentation by David Bienvenu. It was the first time I met, or I don't think I met him there, but I heard him speak there, and I questioned my English, honestly, my English ability. Uh, Trying
Oh,
to
with his accent.
with the Cajun accent.
Yeah.
That was the first time being exposed to that. That was fun. And so that event, I was there by myself, and it was very, very intimidating. And I learned so much, and I met a lot. I met new people there, and everyone was super welcoming. But I think it's just that hurdle of saying, I don't know anyone that's going to that event. I am going to show up. And I was probably 24 or 25 years old when that happened. 100% was the youngest person in the room everywhere I went. And everyone was just super, super grateful, and just showing up to the events. It's the hardest part, but once you're there, I mean, talking to everyone, it's so rewarding.
I think most people, if you get what you put into it, and going to events is really the most important thing because, it's one thing to get the magazine and listen to a podcast, but it's that networking that goes on at events. And if you're not, if you're kind of, on the shyer side, seek out a board member. Any board member is going to be happy to help you out, to introduce you to people. I mean, this is not a cliquey kind of
Yeah.
organization, and I just encourage people when they come in, yeah, seek out a board member if you're not sure. And Nate could introduce you to several people, especially depending on your interests and what you're sort of into, and people will be happy to help you out and introduce you to people and kind of get you situated in the group.
And I had a similar experience with my first NARSA event. I went with my predecessor Ed Moore, and Ed knew everybody, but I knew nobody. But it's funny too because like you walk in and you're a new face, so everyone kind of is drawn to you, right? They want to know your story, they want to know what you do, they want to know what they can learn from you. So it is really neat from that aspect. It's a very welcoming and an open type of community for sure.
Do you remember what year that was?
Oh, that was Rochester, so it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We weren't
Okay.
Mhm.
we weren't drawn to you because you were a new face. We were drawn to you because we thought we could get a better price from you from Titan Products than Ed Moore. That was it. Don't mistake all that attention for being a new face. We were just trying to get a better price. Ed wasn't the easiest to negotiate with.
No, I would imagine not. No.
I really enjoyed my Ed's sharing time on the board with Ed. Ed was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, 2025, that was kind of a tumultuous year, right? So looking back, were there any really big wins for you, or any like real low points that you came across? I mean, I know the tariffs probably had a big impact, being where you are, but just kind of give us a little bit of idea of how the year went for you, and maybe some highlights or some lowlights.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're very grateful that we're not affected by tariffs at all. So, like,
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Okay.
Nate, that's a sore point.
yeah, it's completely irrelevant what happens in the US. So we're lucky that we haven't been affected by tariffs at all. Everything has been business as usual here. We 2025 was a good year for us. It was business as usual. Trying to improve product in the manufacturing phase. We we got the opportunity to build some complete units, with fans and motors, some forced air cooling product. So that was very interesting. We've been buying new machines. We've been investing in repairing old machines to get them up and running. Uh, and we've been very, very lucky that we've had the chance to do that on 2025. 2026, we're very, very hopeful of what that year is going to look like. I think we have some certain projects that we are trying to close for 2026. And obviously, tariff kind of affects us in a way, in that we have the saying in Latin America that when the United States sneezes, Latin America gets a cold. So things, you guys in the US kind of sneezed a little bit this year, until things kind of went back to the stable market on the tariffs. So we definitely had some impact in the region, but things are back to normal. Everything is back to normal.
Rafael, to kind of wrap this up, um, what would you say? I mean, you said one of your kind of main visions as you get into leadership is to kind of expand our presence and specifically in Latin America. What would you say to people that are sort of on the fence about joining NARSA? We live far away. Uh, what would you say to that person that's say in Chile or Ecuador or something like that?
Yeah, it's a valid point. That's all NARSA activities are based in the U.S. And I mean, traveling from South America to the U.S. it's a long trip. But I always say, and we've talked about this, you and I. One of the biggest values is the conversations that happen out in the hallways when you're out in one of those events. I mean, any Latin American customer that feels intimidated about the language, I'm there, you're there. The guys from far in Mexico are always supporters of all the activities. So there's a good community that people can hurdle around and have good conversations. And it's an investment. That's the way I see it. You're buying a plane ticket, you're buying a hotel room, you're investing your time into sharing knowledge, into being open to learn new things. So I'm kind of hoping that we could increase the value, the number of Latin American customers, because I'm 100% sure that they have so much knowledge that we could share with all of our members. And it's one of my visions for the future of the organization.
And like we always say, it's those conversations that happen in the hallway. And I will say, whatever I paid for my trip, and whatever I paid to get into my NARSA, the NARSA event, I always get it back multiple times more with some tip that I got in the hallway of how to rebuild folded core radiators. And I didn't know you could do this and whatnot. So it gets back to that mission statement that we have. It's that one idea, that one opportunity, that one connection that you can make, and you never even thought about it. That's how I got into DPFs. That's how I got into all sorts of things, was just encountering people in NARSA and getting that idea.
Yeah, and to some smaller shops, it's a huge investment for them to be a member of NARSA and attend to one of those events. But if you put yourself out there and you actually go to one of the events with having a goal of meeting people and exchanging ideas, that trip is going to pay for itself right away. Just sharing any issues you have, any materials that you need that you can't find, you just ask the question and someone's going to point you in the right direction. And that trip the investment of that trip is going to be huge. The return of that trip.
Well said, Rafa. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us. If anyone wants to ask Rafa any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Linda. We can get you connected with him. Again, thanks for coming on, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Pleasure being here, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
NARSA Idea's mission statement is one idea, one opportunity, and one connection. If you're not a member of NARSA Idea, we'd love to have you join us. Learn about membership by visiting our website, narsa-idea.org.
And stay connected with us on our website, narsa-idea.org, or by using our newly updated classified section and message boards. You can find a full member directory by logging into your account. A lot of people don't know that this exists on our website, Bobby. The classified section would be a great opportunity to list, old equipment, or if you're even looking for new equipment, exchanging of ideas. It's a great opportunity. I would encourage everyone to go check that out.
For sure, we all have things in our shop that are still good, but not useful to us anymore. And you'll be surprised, they might be someone in another state, another region of the country, or another country totally that could really use this equipment, or overstock product or obsolete product that you think is no good for you might be good for someone else. So definitely check that out. I'm certainly going to tell my guys to put some of the stuff that we have lying around that might be valuable. Our website will also have the latest news, events, including when registration is available for our upcoming 2026 spring conference which is April 29th and April 30th at L&M Radiator in Minnesota. And don't forget to follow us on social media at NARSA Now on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're also active on LinkedIn and YouTube. Just search for NARSA.
And of course, we want to thank our sponsors for today's episode, Johnson Manufacturing and 4R Fasteners. Be sure to check them out if you haven't. They've both been great supporters of our organization.
And don't forget to subscribe to Solder and Soot wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.